hereby call this meeting of the Regional School District number 12 Annual District Budget Meeting to order at 7:06. At this point, I would like a nomination of a moderator to conduct this meeting. Do I have a motion to nominate Nat Faraci as the moderator? Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, the nominations are closed. The decision is made, and I will ask the moderator to read the call of the meeting. Turn this over to Mr. Faraci. Notice of Annual District Budget Meeting, Chippewa Valley Regional School District 12. Notice is hereby given to all those entitled to vote in town meetings in the towns of Bridgewater, Roxbury, and Washington that a district meeting will be held on Monday, May 1st, 2023 at 7:00 p.m. at Chippewa Valley School, 159 South Street, Washington, Connecticut, to present for approval the annual budget for the year 2023-2024 prepared by the Regional Board of Education for Chippewa Valley Regional School District 12, copies of which are on file with the respective town clerks of the district and at the central office of the Board of Education. Chippewa Valley Regional School District 12, Bridgewater, Roxbury, Washington, by Gregory Cava, Chairman, Board of Education, Washington Depot, Connecticut, 06793. I turn conduct of the meeting over to Chairman Greg Cava. Thank you very much. Okay, I hereby present the 2023-2024 school district budget approved by the Region 12 Board of Education in the amount of $26,391,659 with a request to the towns at referendum of $24,897,778. That's $24,897,778 in accordance with Section 10-51 of the General Statutes. At this point, if there being nothing further to come before the meeting, if there's no objection, this meeting of the district budget meeting will be adjourned at 7:09. If there are no objections, this meeting is adjourned. Adjourned until tomorrow, Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023, until polls open in each of the 3 member towns for the purpose of voting the question. The meeting shall then be considered as adjourned following the close of the polls in the 3 member towns and announcements made of the results of voting the question. Bridgewater Town Clerk Cheryl Pinkos, 860-354-5102. Voting at the Senior Center, 132 Hut Hill Road, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Roxbury Town Clerk Peter Hurlbut, 860-354-3328. Voting conducted at Town Hall, 29 North Street, Roxbury, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Washington Town Clerk Sheila Anson, 860-868-2786. Voting to be conducted at Town Hall, Bryan Memorial Plaza, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And now, without objection, the meeting is adjourned until those days. Thank you very much. We will open this meeting of the Regional School District 12 Board of Education. Its timing is to be immediately following the annual district meeting, which has just been adjourned. So here we are. I will ask, I'll call the meeting to order. You want to read these names?
Joe, John, Greg,
Here.
Stephanie, Angela, Alex, Justin, Jennifer, not here, Jane, Julie, Pete, and Mary.
Okay, so we have 11. All right, at this point, I'll ask if there's any member of the public that has comment on this evening's agenda item, please identify yourself. I don't see anyone here in the room. I don't know if there's anyone online. But I see no hands raised, so I assume that there's no public comment. We'll move on to the consent agenda. There are minutes of the special meeting of April 17, 2023, minutes of the Board of Education meeting of March 27, 2023, Board of Education special meeting of March 27, 2023, the Public District Budget hearing of March 27, 2023, the Board of Education special meeting of March 27, 2023, and the amended Board of Education meeting minutes of February 27, 2023. Does anyone wish to take any of these minutes off of the consent agenda for discussion? Going once, going twice. These minutes will then be adopted by consent. We'll go on to reports and recognition. I have a couple of items. On Thursday of this week, from 4 to 7 p.m., will be the second annual Chippewa Valley School Ag Science Exposition. So there will be self-guided tours for any member of the public who chooses to come. There'll be student demonstrations in the areas of animal science, aquaponics, equine, food science, horticulture, power, structural, and technical systems. So please feel free to come, and I encourage you to come to this exposition. It's always good, always well attended, and I think it'll be, once again, very, very, very good for our district. I also want to mention to you, and I think I'm going to ask Angela to jump in here too, the appellate court held session here. They rode circuit and held session here at Chippewa. This was an actual, real session of the Connecticut Appellate Court. It was held in the auditorium. Prior to this session, Angela, myself, and Don Shells, attorney Don Shells, who's admitted to 4 states, 4 jurisdictions, and Mark Goslin, Dr. Mark Goslin, who also has legal background and training. We prepped the students. We met with, I think it was mostly the 10th grade government classes, but there may have been a few other kids that we worked with. We prepped them for a couple of days, a week, or 2 weeks before the argument. We took them through the cases that were here, that were going to be in front of the court. There were 2 cases. One was a criminal case. One was civil. These are not trials. These are appellate arguments. The trials were over, or the decisions were made, and one of the parties was appealing. The criminal defendant was appealing an issue related to the statute under which he pled no contest, pled no contender. It was a civil case that involved an employment law matter involving a police officer in the city of Torrington. And so those 2 cases were held here. The court had arguments by counsel, and the students attended, and it was mostly students and teachers in the audience. I don't know that anyone from the public was here, but we did. Not very many people usually attend appellate arguments who are not involved in the cases. It's rare when anyone from the public attends, unless it's a noteworthy case. You might have a member of the press. We did have members of the press who attended these arguments. I will tell you that the prep sessions with the kids were absolutely fantastic. They really zeroed in on these cases, and it was quite interesting to watch that part of it. They then came together in the room. Now, we had prepped them, among other things, on proper decorum, because when you're in a courtroom, you are silent. You make sure your phone is turned off, because if your phone goes off, it will be confiscated and given away to charity. You will say goodbye to your phone. And of course, this is because courts, we have respect for courts. This is the rule of law. It's the whole foundation bedrock which this country is founded. And so we are very, 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 very good in those circumstances. I had the head of the state marshal delegation. There were 11 state marshals here who provide court security, among other things. They said they have never seen, they do these at colleges, and they have never seen a better deported group of kids who behaved themselves, who were quiet, who were attentive. They said it was absolutely amazing. And after the oral arguments were over, the court left to go to their robing room in our planetarium. And the state marshals left, and the people left who were involved in the court, who were there for the court officers. They all left the room, and the counsel then spent 25 minutes taking questions from our kids. The lawyers were good enough to do that. The criminal case was fascinating, and the civil case was as well. And The civil case, the kids kept asking questions and the lawyers had to spend another 25 minutes with them. It was absolutely one of the most stunning educational things I have seen. I mean, I've never seen that many kids, and there were a lot of kids asking questions who were into what was going on. And these could have been viewed as dry arguments. I mean, even though the criminal case involved the case of a school coach who was accused of violation of a criminal statute regarding sexual matters, it wasn't about that. It was about his challenge to the statute being overbroad, constitutionally infirm. The kids were on top of the constitutional issues. They were really, really paying great attention. The civil case involved a situation where a police officer alleged that there was not proper accommodation. The civil employment statute that requires people to make reasonable accommodations for people that suffer from certain disabilities. He did a tour in Iraq and Afghanistan and suffered from, he was a sniper and suffered from severe difficulties upon arriving. And the question was whether when they did agree to his accommodation of a day shift, having no weekends on duty so he could be with his family to help him with recovery, but they took away his walk. He was a cleaner, he was a drug officer. And so the question was whether not giving him his walk was reasonable accommodation. And let me tell you something, the kids were into it big time about the legal issues, not any trivial issues. Yeah, legal issues involved. You would have been extremely proud if they had been your children. I was just blown away, as were the judges. Now, at the end of the court session, Angela had a great idea, which was to name a land. And the judges were so touched by the little photo of the lamb on a certificate they were given, they wanted to meet them. And so the judges of the appellate court, the three-judge panel, then toured our facilities. They were most impressed with the school, most impressed with the program, and were very impressed with the lamb. So it was really funny because the chief judge's lamb was black, and he said, "Wouldn't you know that I would get the black sheep?" It was just a wonderful thing. I've got to tell you. And I just wish the entire country could have seen how the courts in Connecticut work and how the litigants stand there and argue and talk, reason, and do it in a way that they were profoundly respectful of one another, of the process of the judges. The judges are focused entirely on legal issues. It was just an amazing thing. And at the end of the civil case, the two lawyers told the kids, so you have to understand, one of them put his arm around the other one, we're actually really good friends in life. We'll come in here and argue, but, we're going to go have a meal together. I mean, this is, and just you could see the dynamic of how professionals behave in a professional setting, but also behave because they're human beings. And everyone, the humanity of everyone, judges and all, came out of that proceeding as well. Anyway, I was just amazed. We were so lucky to have this. Our kids were so lucky to have this. And by the way, it wasn't just the 10th grade kids. We had kids from other classes that found out about it. But we had about 170 of the 300 kids in high school in the
Curious.
Well, I think you can thank the principal and your fellow board member, Angela, who saw this opportunity and wrote in and asked about it. We were selected. They only do this once or twice a year, and they go to universities, and they've gone to some other high schools. Not a lot. And we were really fortunate for them to come all the way out here. And by the way, everyone absolutely loved the whole area. They said, wow, this is like a magical place. So I guess if going to the office in Hartford every day, it's nice to get out. I've got to tell you, everyone was terrific. I mean, the school really showed well. And the kids were really proud of it. They were the stars.
Thank you, Angela.
Angela, you've got a lot of things to tell us about this. Please.
There we go. Okay. Yes, they do this twice a year, once in the fall session, once in the spring session. I don't know how many colleges, universities, high schools put into this. I think it was a huge honor that we've chosen. I'm still getting text messages from the kids almost on a daily basis. Decision out, and still debating it. Parents have reached out to say it's a wonderful opportunity, talking about it. And I did receive a note from Judge Seeley. Judges have asked for updates about their land and pictures continuing. But part of her note says the appellate court's visit to Chicago Valley High School was such a success. So far, it has been the highlight of my appellate career. The students were engaged and attentive, and no doubt have a greater understanding for the judicial process than the law. I greatly enjoyed the tour of the agri-science program and, of course, meeting my land. What a great idea. We have not stopped talking about it again. So we said when we gave them the certificate that we could have given them a painting or home or given them a plaque or some sort of declaration, but we wanted to highlight not only our academics but our agri-science. So it really was. Greg's right. The whole day really was just amazing, and our kids were amazing. They really were.
Yeah, I also got a nice note from Judge Seeley as well, and she had mentioned this when she was here that she actually grew up in Richwood, and she had a relationship with another family member in Washington. She spent a lot of time in Washington, town of Washington. She had very fond memories of it, and she was kind of a farm girl. And so it was very exciting that they came here to Chicago with an agri-science program in rural communities. It was just a wonderful thing. And we received a very, very nice letter from the Chief Judge. It was just an opportunity that was. So we're so fortunate. So fortunate. Boy, they stepped up. Can't say enough good things about that experience. So I'm gonna stop now. There's something I do want to mention to you after the meeting. I'll talk to you in person. Nothing to do with this. Yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, I wanted to also mention the appellate court, but I think you guys have certainly done a good job explaining that. But again, I'd be remiss if I didn't once again just do a victory lap and thank Angela, Greg, and Don Chells for all the time and effort that went into this. Like Judge Seeley, this was also one of the highlights of my career as an educator. One of the really truly unique events that we're proud of. So thanks for all the work bringing that together. It was a magical thing. I still think about it and talk about it. Beyond that, I have a few other things just to remind both the board and the community at large. Testing season has arrived. So this week formally begins summer balanced assessments, which are required annually by the state of Connecticut, along with other states will also participate in summer balanced consortium. And so that testing has begun. We also have AP testing going on at Chicago Valley School. So be sure to ensure that your students get plenty of sleep, eating healthy meals and snacks, and doing the best they can to perform that optimal levels of those exams. We certainly teach to the test, but we do look at those tests as a way to get some feedback about our practices. I think the results. Another great opportunity, I think, to showcase our agri-science program took place just this past week, organized by one of our board members, Jen Cody. We had over 40 senior citizens from 3 towns visit our agri-science program, and the emails that we received were effusive in their praise. Folks simply were blown away by the facilities and the state-of-the-art equipment. I've heard more than once people say, I never knew this was here, how come no one told me about this? So again, I think it's wonderful to jump this together, and I think it reminds all of us of the importance of getting our message out and getting people in to see our school, both high school, elementary schools, as well as our agri-science program, so they can see all the things that happen here in the future. Our long-range planning is moving ahead. I know that this is something that Julie's been instrumental in working on over the years. And I did meet with Richard Lemmons last week along with Teresa goal. And we had an opportunity to do some work on putting some of the final touches on a long-range plan. And we're adding strategic actions to larger areas of the plan, as well as metrics to measure our success. So we're excited about that project, and we're looking to have a draft ready by the end of this week. And so that's moving ahead. I'm really excited about that. We continue to have meetings with our principals to review tuition and applications. As of today, we have 57 students who applied to either tuition in either for the first time or as a continuation of prior year. Sorry, we have 57 for SBS, 12 for Booth, 17 for Burnham, and 13 for Washington Primary. So that gives us 99 overall for the region. And applications continue to come in. In fact, they got one about 15 minutes before our meeting started tonight. So we'll review those new ones on a case-by-case basis. But I think all indicators to me say to me, or suggest to me that demand is still strong for our schools, and that folks in and around the region are excited about the goings on here in Region 12. I also had a unique experience this past week. I had the opportunity to join first selectman from Bridgewater, Curtis Reed, as a judge, along with Emily Rue, for the Burnham Spelling Bee. We had students from grades 3 through 5 participate in the event, and it was pretty amazing. They went a number of rounds. I was actually surprised at how many rounds it took before we finally got to our winner, Noah Tenrero. So congratulations to him and to all of the competitors. Really fun day last week at Burnham School. Last week, we also saw Green Week, which is celebration of our environment and renewable resources. And I was invited over to Washington one day for their Choice Day, which is their kind of highlight of the week. And they had a whole slate of amazing events for kids that were based on this year's theme of water. So students were working on model watersheds. There were mock oil spills that students were working on cleaning up. There's a filtration station that Stephanie Komek was running to help show different ways to filter water and the effects of that. There was a great presentation on how sound influences liquids, as well as experiments with hydroelectricity and going out to the river and collecting aquatic river life and studying that. It was a great day, I think, for our students, for our staff, and a great way to involve our campus. But again, it's just a wonderful way to spend the day last week. A few other reminders. You should have received our spring newsletter, Growing Innovation. I'm really proud of our publication. I think it came out well. Many hours went into the planning of this, and the writing and collecting stories. And I want to especially thank Ben, who's over here doing our production work tonight for us, and Debbie for their work on this project. This Thursday night, May 4th, from 4 to 7 p.m., we have an Ag Science Expo. All are invited to come and join us for that. It's a self-guided tour of our Ag Science program. Bring your families and friends. This is one of those great opportunities for all those folks who say, I never knew that existed, or how come I don't know about this? This is the perfect night to say, well, come on out and check it out. And I think that they'll be pleasantly surprised at what a robust program we have. I want to also remind everybody that tomorrow, May 2nd, is National Teacher Appreciation Day. So please take a moment to reach out and personally thank a teacher and share your appreciation for all the work they do. I know that I'll be doing that. That will be the time for the same. And don't forget that tomorrow is also the Region 12 school budget referendum. Polls will be open in all towns from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So a nice long voting day. Again, in Bridgewater, votes will take place at the Hilltop Farm Senior Center, Roxbury at the Town Hall, and Washington at Bryan Memorial Town Hall. So that concludes kind of some of my my updates, and we have a couple of other items that are on the agenda under my report as well. We have a personnel item and a field trip notification. So under personnel, I just want to share with the board that Katie Lisher, a world language teacher at Chapon Valley School, will be taking the leave. That began on February 8th, so this is retroactive, and the close date of that is to be determined. I would also like to share 4 retirements/resignations. So Tanya Adorno, technology teacher at Chippewa Valley School. It's effective June 30th. Rebecca Rotari, math interventionist at Washington Primary, also effective June 30th. Peter Lawler, agri-science teacher at Chippewa Valley. That's effective June 30th. And Annette Reddy, a elementary school teacher over the Burnham School, effective June 30th. Also, we have, just to share with the board, an out-of-state field trip. We have a group of students who grades 3 through 5 from the Burnham School who will be traveling to Old Sturbridge Village in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. The field trip I took many times as an elementary student myself, so I'm excited for them. That's on May 25th, 2023. With that concludes our report.
Thank you very much. I have fond memories of that too. One of my kids went, and I was the chaperone. So it's a great trip. They're very lucky to go. Okay, treasurer's report, John.
Yeah, later in this meeting, there will be discussion concerning the acceptance of the fiscal year 2022 annual audit report. The audit is 72 pages in length, and this is an unmodified audit report, which means that the auditors did not find any material misstatements and nothing was modified in the financial statements by the auditors, namely Charles Heaven and Company. It's referred to as a clean audit because of this. Some of the highlights include revenue, expenditures, debt service, capital reserve, 2% fund balance, elementary repairs fund balance, state and federal grants. It noted that $1,180,824 was returned to our 3 towns, which included tuition and revenue. And the total school district expenses for 21-22 were $24,759,601. One thing, and the audit every year covers the pension funds. And I'm going to make reference to the non-certified employee pension plan. This plan has 124 participants. Some are retired, some are yet to retire. Unfortunately, the fund dropped from almost 100% funded in previous years to 87.85% funded, a loss of 1.29 million. This was due to the markets, investment losses, and market fluctuations. The pension fund monies are managed by Principal Financial Group. Almost 88% funded is still a great position. Obviously, there are pension funds throughout the United States that are far less. My own Teamster pension is like only 55% funded. But the plan is expected to regain the losses. So hopefully the markets will turn around. On page 667, if you're interested, you can see the summary of the auditor's results. This is more or less like a grading of what they found and about internal control over financial reporting. And you will see that none of the answer to most of the questions was no. Material weakness identified, no. Significant deficiency identified, none. Reported. Non-compliance, material to financial statements noted, none. And internal control over major programs, material weaknesses, no. Significant deficiency identified, no. So obviously the auditors didn't find many problems with our system, but they've been doing it a long time. Charles Heaven has been doing our audit for many, many years. So I guess later on, the Director of Finance, Nicole, was going to request an appropriation for the transferring money in the food service. That is, program was in the arrears for 2 years now, so she wants to balance that out. And the March 30th monthly financials for our current budget, the balance was $3,342,660, and we should end the year with a significant balance, which is good. There were only a few lines in negative territory with relatively small deficits. And that's about it for my report. If anyone has any questions.
Hearing none, thank you, John. We move on to committee reports. Justin, curriculum and educational programming.
Nothing new to report. Our next meeting is next Monday, May 8th at 6 p.m. here.
Okay. At Advance, Joe?
Nothing new to report. There was no Board of Directors meeting in April. There is one scheduled for Thursday, which I will be attending.
Alex, finance and operations.
I apologize. I did not get the minutes from our April 17th meeting of the F&O meeting done in time to get them in your packets. I actually did them yesterday. Just to go through what we went through at our meeting, the first thing we discussed was the quiet period, which I never quite understood, but we were not allowed to talk about or promote the budget.
Spend any money.
Okay. Well, anyway, we talked about that. We also talked about the fact that it might make sense in the long run to take an average of the students every April 1st over, say, a period of 3 years to sort of smooth out the curve. So there aren't big years where one town is up and then the next year that town is down. And so their taxes jump all over the place and it makes it hard for the town to budget. So it might be wise to do a 3 or 5 year average and just have it be a rolling average so that you wouldn't pay any less. You just pay it. It would be more consistent rather than get spikes and valleys. The audit, or the financial numbers first. There were no major areas that we discussed that looked out of line. As John said, it looks like we're going to end the year in a very favorable position. We did go through the audit. Nicole showed up with the audit with little yellow markers on the pages she wanted to discuss. There must have been 50 yellow markers. So while I have not read the 72 pages, I feel that I know the 72 pages. Anyway, we'll be talking about this cafeteria fund. It's a negative balance of $90,000. And Nicole will explain that a little bit later, but it's really a bookkeeping area to clean it up. And the F&O committee made a motion to authorize this, a 5-0-0 vote. Where we're going to, I see it later in the agenda, talk about changing 3440 from 5,000 to 10,000 for the amount of the cutoff where you would have to have different requirements for funding of things. But once again, Nicole will address that. We talked about the solar project, and since we are going to own it, it looks like it's going to cost about $3.5 million. We're talking about taking out, and Nicole had done some research, and B of A gave us an interest rate. Now this is not current, but this was at the time of 3.8% on that. And other than that, I don't think I can answer any questions anybody might have. Thank you. That's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Strategic long-range planning, Julie.
Yeah, I think Mark gave everybody a great update. And just from the committee's point of view, we're thrilled that the administration is working on the nuts and bolts and that we think we'll have a final plan in place by the end of the school year.
Very good. Okay, old business, we have none. So we'll go on to new business. There's been a request for a food science textbook.
Yeah, so we're requesting that the board approve an expenditure for $1,320 to purchase 12 copies of the textbook Principles of Food Science, 4th edition, from the Goodhart and Wilcox Publishing Company. There was a overview of the book that was included in the board packet for tonight, and that would cover the cost of purchasing 12 copies at $110 each, which is about the average price for textbooks these days of that size. Certainly if you have any kids who go to college, you know the pain in the pocketbook that those books are, but this is a top quality book for our food science program. We'd be happy to have the resource report.
Is there a motion to approve this purchase? And then we'll put it on then we'll have discussion. Is there a second? Okay, moved and seconded. Now discussion, Alex.
Can this book be gotten digitally or it can only be done in hard copy?
So this purchase would actually provide us a hard copy and a digital copy. I don't know if you can buy a digital only copy. We had to look into that. That wasn't the request. The request was for the hard copy with and they just took the digital package.
But you do think that we'll also, for the kids, you know, when they go home at night, they can look at the book on their computers and stuff. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain? It is unanimous, 11-0. All right, the next item on the new business is a first reading of policy 3440 inventories. A copy was made available to you. This is an amendment of an existing policy. And if we do inventories of instructional and non-instructional equipment should be maintained in a manner authorized by the State Board of Education. All items whose current value exceeds, it was 5,000. We now want to bump that to 10,000. And computer and audiovisual should be included in the inventory. The idea here is we're trying to avoid spending the time, effort, and money to make an inventory of minor, small items. So the number of 5,000 has been in place for quite some time, and the thought was to increase it to 10, so that our inventories are not these voluminous documents that really don't serve much of a purpose. So, is there a motion to approve for a first reading policy 3440 inventories? There's a second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Does the administration want to add anything? Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right. I think the other thing that's just important to point out is that periodically it makes sense to circle back and look at these, especially as inflation changes things. So, you know, when this was initially adopted, 5,000 was significant in terms of expenditures for schools. And, you know, today, I think 10,000 is a more reasonable number. And it also allows us to inventory our equipment in a way that is efficient and also cost effective. So we're not having to chase down smaller items that would be in that old threshold. So, you know, we would be happy to move in this direction. Nicole, I don't know if you have anything further.
Yeah, just to mention that this was actually a recommendation from our auditors after looking at our asset reports, which are lengthy. The reason being anything that's capitalized has to be depreciated on our balance sheets. So depreciate items that cost $5,000 over 15 or 20 years is you're depreciating very small amounts every year. And to depreciate it out 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, most things that we purchase that are $5,000 don't last that long before. The $5,000 threshold was set in 1998.
1998.
Well, I think after 25 years, I think we can bump that number up a little bit. Okay, any further discussion? Question? All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. All those abstaining, please so indicate. It's unanimous 11-0-0. That's it for new business. We'll now move on to the list of action items. First item is to consider and if appropriate, approve non-renewals of staff positions for 2023 to 2024. I'll let the superintendent make a presentation of why we're putting this on here.
Sure. So this actually was something that we should have probably been doing all along. Our attorney brought it to our attention that we should have a standing item every year to go through any non-renewals. Typically, non-renewals would be teachers who are teaching for us who are not tenured. So they're working for us during kind of a trial period. And then if either they're not happy with us or we're not happy with them, it allows you to non-renew before they become tenured teachers. The other side of this, and it's the side that we're going to be looking at tonight, is what I would call technical non-renewals. These are non-renewals of positions that expired because they were either 1 or 2 year contracts, or maybe a position change or a long-term sub job that expired and is no longer needed. So these technical non-renewals are in no way to suggest that these are based on the performance of any of these individuals. They've all performed wonderfully for us, and we would welcome them back in any other position should they so choose to reapply to the district. And we have nothing but positive and favorable opinions of these folks. So there should not be misconstrued that these are folks who are being non-renewed for performance. So with that, I'll read the list of folks that was submitted in the packet as non-renewals DOE notification dated today's date, May 1st.
And these are all technical non-renewals.
These are all technical non-renewals, yes. And we are required to read them by name so that we are on the right side of the law surrounding these non-renewal actions. So without further ado, I'll read the names. Elizabeth Ackerman, she is a literacy tutor at Washington Primary, and the reason was that she was on a 2-year contract that is now expired. Gabrielle Anello, literacy tutor from Burnham School, also on a 2-year contract that is now expired. Barbara Capasso, building sub, split between Booth Free and Burnham School on a 1-year contract that is now expired. Kate Gomes, elementary teacher, Washington Primary, on a 1-year contract that is now expired. Sue Haverly, secretary that was divided between the agri-science and curriculum departments, largely at Chippewa, but sometimes over at central office, and that is a position change. Robert Moen, a tech ed substitute teacher from Chippewa Valley School, that was a long-term sub position that is expiring. Michael Pringle, building sub at Washington Primary, he was on a 1-year contract that is now expired. Linda Schneider, elementary teacher, Washington Primary, again on a 1-year contract that's expiring. Kelly Ann Shea Corrigan, special education long-term sub, used across the district in a 1-year contracted position that's expiring. And Jenna Williams, long-term elementary substitute teacher with Free School, was a long-term substitute whose position is expiring. Again, these are technical non-renewals. They're not folks who we are not renewing because of performance, and we would welcome them back to apply in any other job we have available in the district in the future. And if they choose to go elsewhere, we wish them nothing but the best. Would have nothing but glowing recommendations this year.
Okay. So this is something we're required to do in the month prior to May 1st. That's why it's agenda tonight. Yes.
Question.
Or before May.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do we need a motion first?
We do.
Okay.
A notion, do we have a motion to approve the non-renewals of the staff positions that have just been listed? Moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Does this mean these people will not be here for sure next year? Or it's the fact that their contract is up and some of them we will renew their contracts, but give them a new contract? Or are these people not going to be here next year?
So this is not to be assumed that these people will not be here next year. They may be here in a different role. or on new contracts.
or on new contracts. So basically it's procedural. Their contracts run out. We have to take the action. But that doesn't mean there's no baggage attached to that.
That's correct.
Yeah, I got you.
Right. And we really, and Nicole and I have had some discussions and are of similar mind that we should probably do what the majority of other districts in our area do, and that's to put everyone who is not a represented employee on 1-year contracts to keep it neater and cleaner all the way around, so that we don't have folks kind of in unusual circumstances. I think that it's just a little bit more transparent for everybody.
Yes. Stephanie.
Just procedurally, then do you have to like post a position then, and then it gets like reapplied for, or like, I mean, I know this is kind of common practice in a lot of other districts, but you know, if the timing is like, it would come up sometime in April and then teachers decide if they want to reapply, or do we have to give it time for other applicants to apply for?
Right. So that's a really good question. And so first and foremost, it would depend on the budget, right? So as long as these positions are in the budget for the coming year, we would post them. Sometimes they even get posted on the anticipated passage of the budget. And then folks are welcome to reapply. We're not allowed to give any sort of preferential treatment to anybody. It is definitely an open position. And as always, we want the very best people. And sometimes, you know, the folks that have been with us, you know, have I think the benefit of having some experience with us, and sometimes that's helpful in preparing them for the position. But again, there's no guarantee that anybody is a shoe-in for a job.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the list of non-renewals, approve the non-renewals of staff positions listed. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please raise your hand and say nay. All those abstaining, please so indicate. It is unanimous, 11-0-0. We'll move on to the second action item, to consider and if appropriate, approve the food science textbook request. I think did we just approve that? So we've done that. To consider and if appropriate, accept fiscal year 2022 Regional 12 annual audit report as recommended by the Finance and Operations Committee. Is there a motion to approve? We'll move second and then discuss. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There a second? All right, discussion. Any questions? I don't think the yellow tags are part of the audit, but it does include everything that's been tagged.
Mr. Chairman, I think again, we should just take a moment to recognize all the temporary work managing the folks. Recommendation for finding. That's it, right?
No, I think the other thing that's very important is that this audit report, especially in the way you read between the lines and you read what's on the lines, indicates that we are a well financially managed district. And that Nicole is constantly doing things to make sure that we continue to head in that direction. She hears recommendations, for example, one of them that's going to be coming up in a minute. And we act on those things. She has us act on them so that we continue to have the confidence that the auditors have shown in being able to do this clean audit, because we want to make sure that we've done everything that puts us in the right place in terms of complying with generally accepted accounting principles and the other regulations that apply. So, any further questions or comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Raise your hand. All those abstaining, please indicate. I see none. It's unanimous, 11-0-0. Okay, very good. Let's move on to number 4. To consider and if appropriate, approve the Board of Education authorizes the Director of Finance to make a one-time appropriation from the General Operating Fund to the Food Service Fund to resolve the deficit that exists as of June 30, 2022, in the audited amount of $90,761. We have a motion to put this on the table. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Okay, now discussion. Nicole, do you want to just, this is something that came out of the audit, but It's also something we've known about. This is no surprise.
Correct. This is no surprise. So we did this once before, in 1920, where we,
You mean 2020?
in 2019, 2020.
2019, 1920, I see. Here, I thought we were going back to ancient history.
Where we cleared the deficit in the food service account. So, and we did it for 2 years at that time too. So this is a 2-year deficit, and it's actually one of the larger deficits we've seen in the food service fund. But just to give you a little bit of background, we do what's called fund accounting. So we have several funds that have revenue and expenses coming in, but all of our expenses and most of our expenses are paid out of our general operating fund. And then the individual funds that are responsible for those expenses reimburse the general operating fund. The food service fund is one such fund. So when we make payments for the food service operations, it comes out of the general operating fund. And if there's no money in the food service fund, it creates what's called a due to. So now the food service fund owes the general operating fund that amount of money. So that $90,000 that we're asking to make an appropriation for is actually a balance sheet transfer because the money has already been spent over the course of 2 years out of the general operating fund. So what we're doing is we're effectively leaving the loan that has been made from the general operating fund to the food service fund over those 2 years. The reason it's a little bit larger than it's been in the past is because when we first outsourced food service to Ed Advance, we maintained some of our staff who had been with us for a long time, and we knew that their retirements were on the horizon, and we kept them on our payroll. Well, when we outsourced to Ed Advance, we gave up our revenue. So we had an expense that was climbing in the food service fund for the payroll for those employees with no revenue coming in to offset it. So we knew that this was coming and that we would eventually need to make this balance sheet transfer. And now in year 22-23, we no longer have any expenses in the food service fund because we've moved them over the course of the last 2 years into the operating budget. So there won't be a food service deficit any longer. Once we clear this, then until we retake operation of our food services, there won't be a deficit in that fund.
Unless we retake operation.
Unless,
I didn't want to imply that we were planning on doing that. Okay, excellent. So it's a bookkeeping entry, really, when you think about it, in order to deal with that situation. So that's well explained. Questions? Mary?
I just, not about this particularly, but all the children in Connecticut are going to be on free lunch next year. Who pays for that?
I actually don't have that information. Did you see that in the news? I wasn't aware that that was approved yet, but they are working on doing that.
I thought that was in the news that it was going to happen, but anyway, if that should happen, who pays for it? Do we pay for that, or does the state pay for
So
that?
the current legislation in the state of Connecticut is it would supplement the federal funding. So we receive federal funding for all of the lunches that we serve, and we receive on at 3 different thresholds. We receive a certain amount for students who are what we call private pay. So if they pay for their lunch, then we get a certain amount for serving that lunch, even though they're paying for it. We get a higher amount if families are deemed reduced for lunch, and we get an even higher amount if they're deemed free. So what the state of Connecticut would do is they would come in and make up the difference. So that is state funded with state tax dollars. And that's the legislation that's currently, I thought it was pending. I don't think it's been approved yet, but that's what we're currently in a period of that. The state is currently subsidizing the federal program to make all lunch free. That was started March 1st through this June 30th. And then they're looking at renewing it for next year.
Other questions? Comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand and say nay. All those abstaining, please so indicate. I see none abstaining, none opposed. So it's unanimous, 11-0-0. Okay. To consider, and if appropriate, pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 10-215F, the Board of Education or governing authority certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately and reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. Somebody want to move? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Do you want to explain these things?
Sure, we've opted into this in the previous year as well. We have to opt into it every year. What it does is, so there's a federal nutrition standard for guidelines and there's a state standard. So by opting into federal, we can surpass the state. The state is stricter and it's harder to manage. So while we had always been under the state until Ed Advance came on board with us, we realized that there were some rules that we weren't following that applied to us. And Ed Advanced had recommended that we adopt the federal regulations because they're easier to follow. There's some clear-cut instructions and resources to follow them. So that's what we adopted last year. So we've been participating with the health and food certification now for a year. Seamless transition. I don't think anyone saw any changes in what we were doing, although now we are complying with law. And it also affords an extra, I believe it's 6 cents per meal from the government that's reimbursed. So it's a higher rate of reimbursement if you do participate. And it covers some of the things we've talked about before. We can't sell certain foods that are high in sugar or higher carbohydrates. We can't sell certain foods within 30 minutes of a lunch service. So that will encourage kids to actually eat their lunch rather than cookies or chips that we may serve. It also governs what kinds of sugary drinks we can sell, which is basically none. And we have to buy products that are packaged for the National School Lunch Program. So where you may walk into our cafeteria at Chicago and some Pop-Tarts and think, wow, that doesn't seem like it's nutritious. Kellogg packages foods specific to the standards of the National School Lunch Program. So a Pop-Tart that you would buy at Chicago is going to be whole wheat, less sugar, less sodium compared to what you would buy at a grocery store. So it just says that we're going to buy those kind of Pop-Tarts instead of the Pop-Tarts that are made for mass distribution.
Excellent.
Once
Questions?
again, I've got a question. Am I misreading this? So we're in this number 5, we're saying we're going with the federal, not the state.
Well, see, I was going to say, because this does say that this does refer to Connecticut nutrition standards. Will comply with Connecticut nutrition standards.
The Connecticut nutrition standards is how Connecticut refers to the federal regulations. And if you follow Connecticut nutrition standards, you're adopting the healthy food regulations at the federal level. There's I can't remember the exact, right. I think it's called Smarter Snacks or Smarter Balanced Snacks, which is a separate program the state of Connecticut has that they say you have to follow if you don't adopt this one. And with that, if you follow only the Connecticut kind, not the Connecticut nutrition standards that is supported by the federal regulations, you have to undertake to look at all of the labels of everything that you're serving and make sure they comply. Where if you adopt the federal regulation, they give you lists of what complies. And you can just look up what you're buying and make sure it's on the list. And all of your vendors also check that for you. So
This is something Ed Advance does for us, but we audit it, we check. Well, this reminds me of a scene from the movie Apollo 13 when they discover that they've got a problem. They've got these guys stuck in the lunar module over here. The things that scrub this carbon dioxide out of the air, they need to replace them. The ones they have for the other part of the ship are square, and these are round. And so they have to figure out how to put a square peg in a round hole so the astronauts don't die of carbon dioxide poisoning. And so at one point, the flight director, Gene Kranz, played by Ed Harris, says, "Somebody please tell me this is a government operation." I'd like to use that now for that situation where the Connecticut standards are how the Connecticut refers to the federal standards. Somebody please tell me this is a government operation. All right, good. So I think that question being answered, is there any further questions? I mean, I think it's nice that we're getting products that are helpful. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye. All those opposed, please say nay, raise your hand. All those abstaining, please so indicate. It's unanimous, 11, nothing, nothing. The last action item, number 6, to consider and if appropriate, the Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. Got that? The regular school day is the period from midnight before 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales. So this allows us to sell those Twinkies at the school play, but not at the rehearsal. Now you can have the Pop-Tarts in the box that are prepared by with the whole wheat Pop-Tarts. So, do we all understand this? I'm certain we do. Is there a motion to approve this? Is it second? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. I'll let you figure out who moved and seconded. Okay, further discussion. All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Is that a nay? That's an aye. Okay, all those abstaining, please so indicate. It's once again unanimous. And that was a mind-numbing exercise. If there is no objection, I would
I'd like to make one observation.
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Although no one zoomed in tonight, the audio video quality seems much improved. So I don't know what happened, but thank you.
Ben took a stick to that thing and lumped it, but good. So there we go. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Well, I will, at this point, without objection, will declare the meeting adjourned at 8:10.